Hello, hello, hello. Can y'all hear me? I saw a little thing come across the screen, and it said that my mic was disconnected. So I need to know if you can hear me. Hello, Diana. Too welcome. Can you hear me? Okay. Bus stop. Welcome. I was just with you and on David Lynn's channel. Good to see you. I've got 5 people on now, and 2 or 3 have announced themselves. So, okay, Diana 2 is one of my favorites as well. Christina Green, hi, welcome. We should see Little Lone Pepper here very shortly too. My Pepper Journey, welcome. Good to see you as well. Anybody got anything interesting from the news? Hello, KP Heathen. Hopefully, are you affected with that salt water in the drinking water or anything that's going on in the lower Mississippi Valley or lower Mississippi Delta? I hope everything's going okay with you there in Louisiana. I think you said you're from Baton Rouge, if I'm not mistaken. So you're probably a little bit further upstream from where they're having the saltwater recursions. We see Holly Ivans, welcome. Robin in Virginia, welcome. Okay, we'll give it 1 or 2 more minutes and give people a chance to get on. I don't know why I didn't schedule this earlier. I just scheduled it today. I thought I scheduled all of them, but I guess I make mistakes. And so let me tell you, I've had a couple phenomenal weekends. A couple weekends ago, had a couple people from who are subscribers driving through town. We met, had lunch. What a wonderful pair. I was able to take them over. No, it was a Tuesday. It was a Tuesday because the LDS center is open on Tuesday afternoon. So I took them over there, and they got enough. They got what they needed from the LDS Provident Living Center. And then this last weekend, I had a fantastic lunch with Triple G Farms. And oh, what a delightful guy! Just really great talking to him. And so it just so happens that his specialty is an area I'm having a little bit of a medical challenge in. So we were able to talk a little bit about that. And gosh, it's really great to talk to people who really know their stuff. There's an awful lot of pretend people out there, and when you come across people who really know what they're talking about, it's just such a you just sit there in awe and listen. Bus stop. There are a lot of new arrivals. 12,000 a day at several different crossing points. The Ukrainians, of course, are escaping the war. The Venezuelans say they're escaping the communist dictatorship of Venezuela. Here's the thing. Here's the problem with both of those. And it's not U.S. law. It's international law. So international law says that when you're seeking political asylum or seeking asylum from a tyrannical government, you must seek asylum in the first country you step foot in after leaving your country. So for the Ukrainians, it's going to be a European country. So according to international law, they can't file for U.S. protection here, asylum. And the same thing, the Venezuelans, there's several Central and South American countries between them and here that they should have stopped at and asked for asylum there. But the current administration is not following international law. He's not only not following U.S. law, he's also not following international law. Oh, wow. KP Heathen says, yeah. Okay. So he shouldn't be seeing Venezuelans or Ukrainians unless Ukrainians are coming in through some other means. But that's, what are laws? They definitely aren't there to be followed anymore. They're only there to be enforced against your political opposition. That's for sure. A lot of rain today in Houston. I tell you what, when I first retired from the Army, my first job was with the state, Region 6 for the Texas Air Control Board, Air Pollution Control. I was the HR manager for the Region 6. And we were in the ugliest building in Houston on the corner of basically Lehigh and West Loop, which was basically one block south of the Southwest Freeway in West Loop, just south of the Miller Lite distributor there. And ugliest building in town. One thing I found out was at 7 o'clock in the morning, getting to work, you still had to carry a towel. And even though you only had 50 or 60 yards to walk from the parking lot to the front door of the building, you still had to carry a towel and towel it down because of the humidity, just ungodly humidity and heat in Houston. I am so glad that they promoted me and moved me up to Austin. Just that was a blessing. Although Austin, the weather here is not that much more different. And actually, most people would think that Austin is north of Houston, but actually it's almost due west. So, we're a little bit more inland, but, we still get most of the humidity Houston gets, not all of it. So right now, yesterday and today, it was back up into 100 here in Austin. So, it's something else. There's Little Lone Prepper. I told you she'd be here. Hello, Little Lone Prepper. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are going to, we're supposed to have 50% chance of severe thunderstorms for the rest of the night. Well, last night, the neighborhood just south of us had baseball-size hail. So I put my wife on a plane and flew her off to New Jersey. My daughter and her husband moved to New Jersey. He got a promotion, and they're living in New Jersey now. So for my birthday present for my wife, I gave her a round-trip ticket to go see the grandchildren. She's in New Jersey. My son-in-law's parents live about 12 miles south of us, and they sent him pictures of the hail damage of their vehicles, their car and their pickup. And so Helen saw those pictures, and she immediately contacted me wanting to know how it was here. And I told her, we just had real bad rain. We didn't have any hail at all here. So we were very, very lucky. So Prepper Journey knows that building, the ugly 6-story building, brown brick. Something else. But anyhow, we were almost in, what's the name of that town that Texaco is in? The next road south is a different town in Houston. What's the name of it? But Texaco headquarters is right there. And so, then our apartment that we lived in was on the corner of South Dairy, Ashford, and Bissonnet. So way west. And we went to church in Sugarland. Really neat. Oh gosh, Christina, I am wholeheartedly in agreement with you. I fell in love with Germany. When it gets up into the high 70s, Germans start dying of heat stroke. I have no idea why Hitler wanted anything in North Africa. But 70s and 80s, they start dying of heat stroke, and they don't have air conditioning. And the way I learned, I was in Germany for 9 years with the Army. So what I learned there was that you can always put more clothes on. But here in Texas, there's a limit to how much you can take off. You can even take it all off, and you're still going to be miserable. So that's all there is to it. So Holly says it's raining in Jersey. Yes, that's what my wife said. Actually, over the weekend, they were going to take the boys and go to the Hershey factory in Pennsylvania. So Helen is a native Texan, and we got married late in her life and late in my life. We were in our 30s when we got married. So she had only been to Missouri and to Indiana, other than Texas. And so she's trying to build up this list of places she's been to. So now she's been to New Jersey and New York. She wanted to go to Pennsylvania and go to the Hershey, Pennsylvania, and didn't quite make it because of the rain, primarily. And evidently there in New Jersey, they've got the remnants of that Ophelia. I guess it's a tropical storm now instead of a hurricane, but that's just the way it goes. Okay, looks like we're at 10 minutes in, so we can start the actual discussion of what we're here for, and see how we do. So let's start off with the next one in this list of 100. It's a list of 100 we're going through. Last week we did 12, so this is actually question number 13. I'm just renumbering them for the purposes of the discussions here tonight. So how many branches of government do we have, and what are their names? Oh, wow, Josie. Okay, so how many branches of government do we have, and what are their names? Robin in Virginia says 3. Okay, so that's the first part. That's correct. And what are their names? So I'll give you a hint. Articles 1, 2, and 3. Christina, Yahoo! You've got the executive, the legislative, and the judicial branches. So the legislative branch is set out in Article 1 of the Constitution. The executive branch is set out in Article 2, and the judicial branch is set out in Article 3. So good job, Yahoo! Okay, what stops one branch from becoming too powerful? Any one of those 3 branches, what stops it from becoming too powerful? So this is a concept. It's not specifically stated in the Constitution. It's basically a concept. And I will tell you that in all reality, the concept changed. Phylloxerus, fantastic, absolutely. Checks and balances, or the other part of that is the separation of powers. So basically, Congress creates the laws, the legislative creates the laws, the executive branch enforces the laws, and then the judicial branch interprets the laws. So that's the 3 functions of the 3, and that's the checks and balances. Now, I will tell you, we had an incident occur, I believe it was in 1837. Let me check here real quick. And it was a Supreme Court decision. So Madison versus Marbury, and 1803. I'm sorry, I was way off. 1803, Marbury versus Madison was a Supreme Court decision that gave the Supreme Court the authority to overturn any legislation that is contrary to the Constitution. So basically, it kind of gave itself the power to override legislation. Oh, wow, I just had a banner come across the top, and it says, emergency alert. Crimea is under massive attack by the Ukrainians. The Russian doomsday planes are going to Siberia. So evidently, this is the highlight of the counterattack currently going on. Oh, Robin. Well, good. Sue Me, thank you and welcome. Good to see you. Okay, so now then, the next one. Who's in charge of the executive branch? Now, this is Article 2, Section 1. Who is in charge of the executive branch? And I'll take a name. Most of you probably even know the name. Amen, my prepper journey. The president of the United States is the head of the executive branch. Now, I will tell you, we have another small problem. And the small problem is called delegation of powers. So remember, all laws, and we'll get into this question, so I'm going to give you an answer ahead of time. All laws are created by the legislative branch, okay? So they're the only ones that can write laws. Now, we've had this thing where presidents write executive orders, and we think that's a law. It can only affect those agencies of which he has authority over, or the executive branch. So only federal agencies can be affected by executive orders legally. So all laws are by the legislative branch. But what the legislative branch does is inside those laws, when they create them, they give rulemaking authority to that agency. For example, the Environmental Protection Agency under the Clean Air Act was given authority to make rules concerning clean air. That's why you get these laws about the minimum number of miles that a vehicle has to drive, or MPG stuff, how much carbon dioxide we can have. Hi, Texas Redleg, welcome. Good to see you, buddy. How's the weather up there? We're got 50% chances of thunderstorms here in the Austin area. So what we've done is the legislature, the legislative branch has gotten busy, and they've also gotten lazy. And so they've delegated rulemaking authority to the executive branch. And that way, what they've done is the executive branch now has the ability to usurp basically the legislative branch, which is not good at all. Okay, question number 4. Who makes federal laws? Well, I just gave you that. That's Article 1, the legislative branch, okay? So, but the legislative branch is divided into 2 parts. What are the 2 parts of the legislative branch? Hello, Matthew Malloy. Welcome, and welcome from Iowa. What are the 2 parts of the U.S. Congress? So one of the things you can think of, well, let's take a look at it. So where is the Supreme Court? It's in Article 3. And where is the judicial branch? It's in Article 3 as well. Where is the legislative branch? It's in Article 1. There we go. Sue me. Yes. And Diana too. Yes. And Phioxerus. Yes. Aha. Champions all. We have 2 different chambers. We have what's called a bicameral legislature. We have the House of Representatives and we have the Senate. And we're going to have a question here. I'm going to tell you another sneaky thing that happened there with an amendment that kind of changed that. So here's a tough one for you. According to Article 1, Section 3, how many U.S. senators are there and why? Texas Redleg, right. So how many U.S. senators are there? This is discussed in Article 1, Section 3 of the Constitution. And don't confuse this with how many representatives. So Texas Redleg has it right, and Phioxerus has it right. There we go. So there's 102 per state, and we have 50 states, so that's 100 senators. Now then, is this a question that'll come up later? I think it is. I'll leave that alone. Okay. So how long do we elect a U.S. senator for? So this is Article 1, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution. And then it's kind of changed a little bit, but the tenure, there we go. The amount of time they spend did not change, but they changed the way that they are selected. So U.S. senator serves for how many years? This is both in Article 1, Section 3 and the 17th Amendment of the Constitution. My prepper journey, that's the right answer for a different question. And that'll come up next. Diana too, yes, there we go, 6 years. So U.S. senators are 6 years. Now, originally, under Article 1, Section 3 of the Constitution, they were appointed by the state legislature. Their original responsibility was to represent the legislature of the state, because there are 2 amendments, okay? There's a 9th Amendment, individual powers, the powers that you and I have, and then there's the 10th Amendment, the state powers, those powers that are delegated to the states. So we have the representatives, the House of Representatives represent the people in the 9th Amendment, okay? And then in the 10th Amendment, they represented the states. But then at the turn of the 20th century, we changed that. And I think it was under President Harding. And basically, instead of the senators being appointed by the legislatures, they're now elected by the people. So what really happens now is we have senators and representatives who represent the will of the people, and nobody represents the will of the state. Remember that, and that's what makes us the federal republic that we are, is the states. And so basically, by having the senators elected, what we've done is we pretty much nullified the 10th Amendment. It's still there, but it has no power because it doesn't have any representation in Congress anymore. Holly Ivins, I watched him this evening, and he is sticking to his guns. He's even got people in the Senate and AOC asking him to resign. He's sticking to his guns. He's saying no. He's sticking on board. It was supposed to. He was supposed to use this evening to announce his re-election campaign, or his decision to run for re-election. He did not do that. He did not announce he is. He did not announce he isn't. Something tells me he's going to serve out his term to the best of his ability, and just not run for re-election. I think that's what he's going to do. I wholeheartedly agree. This is the third time he's been indicted for basically the same thing. So the first time they basically had a hung jury, and so they couldn't convict him because of the hung jury. The second time there was a procedural error, and now they're trying it a third time. But this is three different instances. I mean, they didn't retry him for the first or second ones. This is a whole new set of cards that he's being dealt here. So Sumi, you are correct. There is one term limit that is in an amendment. It was not originally in the Constitution, but it is in an amendment. I think it's the 25th Amendment. Let me check. But it was written for FDR. No, it's the 22nd. I'm sorry. So the 22nd Amendment, Section 1 says, no person shall be elected to the office of president more than twice. And no person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years or of a term to which some other person was elected president shall be elected to the office of president more than once. So basically, you've got a maximum of 8 years if you're elected and 6 years if you're not elected that you can serve as president. However, I wholeheartedly agree with you that there need to be term limits for both senators and congressmen. And I think that term limit should apply for any federally elected position. So you and I are in complete agreement there. So Phioxerus, what I heard this evening was if he is found guilty on the counts that they have against him, and his wife was also indicted as a co-conspirator. But if he is convicted, it's 85 years mandatory imprisonment for the counts that they have on him right now. There he is. So he didn't beat it. It was a hung jury. And then there was another one where there was procedural errors. And I think it was partly, there was something that the prosecutor did not give to the defense. And because he didn't share all of his evidence that he was going to be bringing up in trial, that basically kind of threw it out. Triple G Farms, welcome. So I was just telling people we had a wonderful time together this weekend. We had we had wonderful lunch, and thank you so much. It was so great being able to sit and talk to you and learn from you. It's phenomenal. My next goal is there are two more here in Texas. There's Texas Redleg, and he's just north of us on I-35. We need to get him down here, and the three of us can get together and probably have a chicken fried steak or a good Mexican lunch. And then the other one is Pete, the roaming prepper. He's out in the Midland, Odessa area, but he does come down here every once in a while to the Austin area. So maybe we can kind of get the group of us together at some point and just have a fantastic cup of coffee or lunch or dinner or whatever. I was super impressed talking with Triple G Farms. God. And you know, some of you people, Little Lone Prepper sent me a book, and she sent me several very nice gifts, reading about her relatives, and just, oh gosh, the quality of people that we have as subscribers is unsurmountable. I really appreciate you guys. Just phenomenal. Thank you so much. Holly Ivans, you're absolutely correct. We're going to talk about that. That's a question in the citizenship test, believe it or not. I would hope so too. And evidently, this is the prosecutor from the Southern District of New York. Basically, his office is in Manhattan, but I guess he has jurisdiction over Southern New York and New Jersey. So I saw him on TV. He is a go-getter. You would think of him as an earlier form of Giuliani, when Giuliani was going up against the mobs. That's what he kind of reminds me of. Okay. So the next one, and people from New Jersey have already been talking about this. Who is one of your state's U.S. senators right now? So do you know who your senators are right now? My senior senator is John Cornyn, and my junior senator is Ted Cruz. So, and the way they get determined as to whether they're senior or junior is how long they are in service. So Triple G Farms, absolutely Ted Cruz. And I like him. I really like him. How about the rest of you? Okay, here's a tough one. How many House of Barrasso? Oh, Fiexeris. So anyhow, that sounds like Wyoming. Wyoming only has one representative, if I'm not mistaken. Are there any other states that only have one representative? DC only has one representative. And Wyoming. Rob Portman. Good. Bud and Tillis. All right. Ooh, Phylloxerus. Right answer, wrong question. Half of it is absolutely correct. You got it. You nailed it. The tougher part you got, which is 435 representatives. But that's an odd number, so there isn't a tie. So there is no tiebreaker in the House of Representatives. You just have to have 50% plus one to break a tie. So where you do have a tiebreaker is in the Senate, because you have 50 states with 2 senators each. So theoretically, and that's basically what we had up until, what's the guy from Pennsylvania that had the brain issue? Until he was elected, we had basically a 50-50 Senate. And so that's when the vice president comes in. Remember, that's what they needed. What was his name from Indiana? Mike Pence. Mike Pence was going to be the tiebreaker if there was any questions about the election outcome. Fetterman, thank you, Sumi. Fetterman. But anyhow, so Mike Pence was going to be the tiebreaker in the Senate. And as a matter of fact, the vice president has the title of president of the Senate. So, and that's in Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution. So there are 435 representatives in the House of Representatives. Now, here's where we have a really tough one. I think we got a question here on, let me see if we got it here yet. No, we are going to talk about it yet. So here's a tough one for you. And this is not one of the citizenship questions. This is just another one. The reason we have senators is to ensure that every state has equal representation. So the state legislatures have 2 representatives and they call it the upper chamber of Congress. And so they have basically the approval authority they approve appointments by the president. They approve judicial nominations. They grant general flag officers commissions. What else do they do? They approve all the secretaries of the departments that the president has in his cabinet, and all that kinds of stuff. Okay, now then, the representatives represent the people. And so for less populated states, for example, DC, and DC is not a state, so they only have a representative. They don't have a senator. Same thing with Wyoming. I think Wyoming only has one representative, but they have two senators. So, you have representation by population, by how many people you have. Now, if you add, and this is in Article 2, I believe it's in Section 2 of Article 2. Might be Article 1 or Article 2, Section 1. You have what we call the Electoral Congress. Oh, it's second paragraph, Article 2, Section 1, second paragraph. The Electoral College is basically trying to do that same thing, where we're giving the states and the people equal representation. So if you take the number of congressmen, 435, and you take the number of senators, 100, add those together, that's the total number of votes that are available in the Electoral College. And you need a simple majority in the Electoral College in order to elect the president. Okay, so that's where that comes from. So 435 plus 100 equals 535. So we elect a U.S. representative for how many years? And this is in Article 1, Section 2. Somebody already got this right. Absolutely correct, Phreoxerus, 2 years. So all U.S. representatives are elected 2 years. What that means, let's get down to brass tacks. They are productive for 1 year and campaigning for re-election for the second year. That's all there is to it. So we've gotten to the point where, as I think it was Little Lone Prepper, maybe it was Sumi, we're talking about we need term limits, absolutely, because what happens is you elect a congressman, he goes to Congress, he says he's going to do certain things for you. Then he says, I couldn't get it done, not in just 1 year. And then he starts running for re-election and says, you got to re-elect me in order for me to do it. Then you end up with people who have been there 40, 50, 60 years, still haven't done what they promised they were going to do in the first place. So yes, we do need, in my opinion, we do need a constitutional amendment that is going to give us term limits for both congressmen as well as senators. So my congressman's name is John Carter. I just drew a complete blank. And John Carter and my dad were pretty good friends. We call him Judge Carter because he was the county judge before he became a congressman. So anybody who knows him actually calls him judge instead of congressman. Just don't see too much of him. He's really a low-key guy. You don't. Although he represents Fort Hood, so I mean, he does a lot for the military and for the VA. He is very, very strong there. All right. So Phreoxerus, you are from Wyoming. Okay. I thought I had that right. Yeah, so Harriet Hagman. But so ours is John Carter. And as a matter of fact, I went to Sam's one time, and he was standing in front of me in line at Sam's. And he got done checking out. His wife is Dutch. And so we were talking back and forth. And oh, that's Article 6 of the Constitution. I'll give that to you here in just a minute, Sumi. So anyhow, he left. And so I asked the cashier, I said, do you know who that was? She said, no. And I said, well, look at the name on the charge slip. He just used his credit card. She says, okay, John Carter. I said, you don't know who John Carter is? She said, no. I said, that's your congressman. He represents you to the U.S. Congress. And she goes, oh, wow. And she had no idea whatsoever. Okay, so the question is, how do you get an amendment to the Constitution? So that is either Article 6 or Article 7. Let me check here real quick. Article 6. No. Okay. No, it's got to be Article 5. Gosh, I thought I knew this stuff. Okay, Article 5. The Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to the Constitution or on the application of the legislatures of 2/3 of the states. That's what they're trying to do right now, called the Convention of States. So as long as we can get 2/3 of the states to come up with an amendment without Congress, that can be done, or 2/3 of Congress, and then it gets sent out to the states for ratification. In either case, shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of this Constitution when ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states. So you have to have 2/3 to propose the Constitution, then 3/4 of the states have to accept the amendment to the Constitution, ratify it. Mode of ratification may be proposed by the Congress, provided that no amendment which may be made prior to the year 1808 shall in any manner affect the first and fourth clauses of the ninth section of the first. So you can't do any amendments before 1808 other than the Bill of Rights, the amendments 1 through 10. And then after that, you have to have 2/3 to propose, 3/4 to approve. So good question. Thank you. No, I didn't. Okay. So it's 2/3 of Congress. So that's both houses, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check one more time. I don't want to get you any information that's incorrect. Yeah, the Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments. Okay. So it has to be both. It has to have that very high margin. So here's the thing about the Constitution. The Constitution, and in the Fifth Amendment, it was intended to be a very slow to change document. Once it was put in place, you had to have really a lot of agreement in order to change it. And, so that's why we're trying to get by it nowadays with things like judicial review and with executive orders and things like that, because they can't get the Constitution to change. And a lot of people don't like what the Constitution says because it is a limiting document. It limits what we can and cannot do as far as a government. For example, Article 1, Section 8, that along with, I think it's the 23rd Amendment. Let me check here real quick. 18, 20, 21, 23. I'm looking for the income tax amendment. Maybe it's 16. Yeah, 16. So the 16th Amendment is the income tax amendment. So other than the 16th Amendment, the only things Congress can do is in Article 1, Section 8. They can't do anything else. Okay. Okay, let me see. Who does a U.S. Senator represent? Yes, and I'm not even sure. Here in Texas, we have the TEA, Texas Education Agency, and I did some training. I did some managerial training for them, and I'll tell you what, they are wrought with people who are intent on indoctrinating our children with stuff that is not necessarily true, and changing the way they think and the way that they are educated. We no longer teach our children how to think; we teach them what to think, and that's atrocious. And I'm not even so sure that I want the Texas Education Agency to continue to exist. Uh, One thing that we definitely need to do is the National Education Agency, the NEA, which is the teachers' union, needs to be outlawed. They've got way too much power. Um, and that's it. That's a facetious answer, but you're probably correct. We're talking theoretical here. Um, Basically, who do U.S. senators represent? And the correct answer is, since they are elected by the entire state, they represent all the citizens of that state. Um, but we know that most states are divided, and so they end up representing basically the will of the majority that elected them. Now, in reality, they were originally supposed to represent the state legislature. And then in 1803, the 17th Amendment came about. And I'm sorry, no, it wasn't 1803. It was later on, 19 in the 20th century. The 17th Amendment came about, and they elected senators from that point on, which basically usurped the 10th Amendment. We talked about this already. Why do some states have more representatives than the others? So we'll bypass that one. The correct answer there is because they have more people, more population. Um, okay, so the next one is, we elect a president for how many years? This is in Article 2, Section 1. All right. Yes, 4 years, 8 max if they're elected, 6 max if they're not elected. So, well, if they serve more than 2 years of the previously elected president's term, then they can be reelected twice. So remember, LBJ. LBJ served out basically 1 year of JFK's term. So that did not meet that 2-year threshold. So it was considered that he could be elected twice because he didn't serve more than 2 years of JFK's term. So he served one elected tour, and then he chose not to run for reelection for the second one. So he theoretically could have served for 9, but that's, it would be less than 10 for sure. So yes, we elect them for 4 years. Y'all are doing fantastic. Okay, the last question: when do we elect the president? In what month do we elect the president? Do we vote the president? In what month do we elect the president? And then I'll give you a bonus question. In what month is he inaugurated? I'm saying he, generic he. In what month is the president inaugurated? So correctly, the correct date is the first Tuesday in November. Uh, Hello, James. Welcome. Good to see you. Thank you for being here, my friend. Um, January, correct. So we elect in November, and then we inaugurate in January. And so the first, I forget what day it is. We have, now, here's the thing. So what it says in Article 2, Section 1 is, it does not say that the elections will occur in November and the inauguration will happen in January. What it says is, Congress shall determine the month in which the elections take place and the month in which the inauguration takes place. So they had to, so what we had to do was, they had to pass a law, pass a bill. Basically, it says, we elect in November and then inaugurate in January. So y'all did phenomenally well. Great. So what questions do you have about the questions that we had here for the Constitution this evening? Please do not forget, you can call or write to your congressman or your senator's office, and they will send you for free in the mail, U.S. postage, a copy of the Constitution of the United States. It also has a copy of the Declaration of Independence in it, which is phenomenal. And then it's got significant dates in the history of the United States. It's a phenomenal little document. Mine is well worn, highlighted, underlined, tabbed. Well, I don't have tabs on it, but it's well underlined and highlighted, and carry it with me almost everywhere I go. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we're up against. Let me check here. Angry Truth is live. I'm kind of anxious to check into what's going on here in the Ukraine and in the Krymsky Poloostrov, Crimean, and Poloostrov. Polu means half, and Ostrov is an island. So Poloostrov is a half island or a peninsula, basically. That's a good question, Theoxorus, and I don't know the answer to that since it was a bill that was passed by Congress. I really don't know. I do, gosh, let me do a quick Google search. So when did presidential election month change? Oh, it's got everything for 2024, election day 2024. I'm gonna have to really research that for you. I will have an answer for you next week when we come back for this. I am going to agree with you there, Theoxorus. I believe it has been over 100 years. And so, they wanted to give some time for transition between the old president and the new president and everything else. I know that John Adams had a hard time moving in as Jefferson was moving out. Or was it the other way around? Well, that's a good question. So originally, the way it was intended, and it's not spelled out, so it's open to interpretation. But the vice president was considered to be a separate election. So, and it still is on the ballot. So when you elect the president, you're voting for one person. When you vote for the vice president, you're voting for a second person. They call it a ticket. So you're typically going to have a president and a vice president from the same party getting elected. Nothing in the Constitution prohibits you from electing a president from party A and a vice president from party B. And that has happened a couple times in our history. And they were kind of, so that vice president becomes really critical if you have in the Senate a split Senate where you have 50-50, and that opposing party vice president is going to have the tendency to vote against you. So yes, we have had in the past where the vice president was elected from a different party. That has not happened, I don't think, since the 20th or 21st century. That has not happened. But it is, they are elected at the same time as the president. So the president and vice president are both elected. So, and as a matter of fact, next week, one of the first questions is going to be about the succession of who succeeds the president in the case that he or she can no longer fulfill the job of the presidency. And, then we have the order of succession. 1933 20th Amendment, okay? Bingo. Thank you, sir. Great research. The term of the president and vice president shall end at noon on the 20th day of January, and the terms of senators and representatives at noon on the 3rd day of January of the years in which such terms would have ended if this article had not been ratified, and the terms of their successors shall then begin. So this was, the 20th Amendment was passed, was ratified August 18th, 1920. So basically 1920 is when they changed the election and James is saying 1933. Let me check and see if I read that wrong. I don't want, I'd hate to give you, I'm sorry. The 19th Amendment was passed in 1920. The 20th Amendment, he is correct, was passed January 23rd, 1933. So yes, he is correct. That is absolutely correct. 20th Amendment changed the dates. So up until then, it was determined by Congress in Article 2. How many amendments are there? Good question, Sumi. I'm going to throw that out for the group. I think I know. Let me check and make sure. I am right. And I'll tell you what it was. No, thank you very much, James. Listen, I am not a prideful person. If I make mistakes and you show me I've made a mistake, I am happy to learn along with everybody else. So please, if you have contrary information and you have documentation for it, then please share that, because it's more important we get the right word out than it is that I be correct. Okay. So I want to check and make sure I am correct, because I think it's the age. No, I am incorrect. So the 26th Amendment was the age of election. So for federal elections, the 26th Amendment was passed, and that was July 1st, 1971, which made me eligible to vote in the next presidential election, because I would have been 20 instead of 21. And then the 27th Amendment, which is the answer to, I believe, Sumi's question, is that when pay raises for a congressman goes into effect. So Congress cannot give themselves pay raises. They have to go into effect after the next Congress is seated. So they can't give themselves pay raises. Thank you, Theoxerus. Yes. So Christina, so the succession basically goes from the president to the vice president. And remember, these are all elected officials. And then the third one, the third most powerful person, is the Speaker of the House. And that's why everybody said, that's why they wanted to get President Trump out. If they could get President Trump out, and if they could get then Vice President Pence out, Nancy Pelosi became the president. That's the main reason why she wanted all these impeachments, when she wanted to become president. So and so it's 27 amendments. Diana too. Yeah, so you're stuck on that 26th one like I am. The giving us the right to vote at a younger age. That still ticks me off though. That you can be 18 and determine how the country is run, but you have to be 21 to buy a handgun. You have to be 21 to buy alcohol. You have to be 21 to buy tobacco. If you can't make an adult decision to buy tobacco, alcohol, firearms, then how can you make an adult decision and determine who's going to be the best leader for the country? And then the next question is, how can you be adult enough to request a sex change operation without your parents knowing anything about it at even younger ages, like some of the states are proposing now? And the same thing with marriage, So I got my driver's license. I was the last driver's ed class in El Paso to get my driver's license at age 14. And then right after I got my driver's license, they raised it to 16. So just imagine 14-year-olds with full driver's license. Yes, that's what I'm saying. To me, there's a dichotomy. There's a ambiguity. There's a contradiction that we say you have to be this old to make these decisions, but these decisions, which are also as important, if not more so, you can be younger. That to me, we should have one age of majority. So one age to get married, to drink, to smoke, to drive, to vote, to enlist in the military, to do whatever. Give me one age and say that's the age, okay? And we're going to recognize that as the age of majority. And if you can do that, I would be a very happy camper. Yeah. What other questions do you have? We got 5 minutes left. So tomorrow night, we're going to be getting into oh gosh, I thought I had it here. We're going to be getting into, I think it's volume 11 of a Americans Going Home series. And I'm sorry, tomorrow night, we're going to be doing the advanced skills in the in our nonfiction book club. And then Thursday night is the fiction book club. It's the last Thursday of the month. And that's going to be volume 11, I believe, of A Americans Going Home series. So we've got 3 lives this week, today, tomorrow, and Thursday, all of them at 8 o'clock Central. Also, I've been trying to put out a short every day on food preparation ideas or food storage ideas on meals that you can have simply made after SHTF. The one I just released today was I forget already. And dry cereal. On dry cereal, that you can store dry cereal, but store it without sugar. So preferably it's going to be something like Cheerios, Rice Krispies, Corn Flakes, not Frosted Flakes, Corn Flakes, shredded wheat, Mueslix, bran flakes, and things like that don't have any sugar in them. Sugar will cause it to deteriorate. And then make sure you vacuum seal that so that it doesn't go stale on you. And then I also showed, for example, I don't see it. It's almost here almost all the time. Nutrient Survival has 2 different cold cereals, but don't forget to get your, thank you, James. I greatly appreciate that. And then don't forget that they also have one that's kind of like chocolate Cocoa Puffs. And so I did that, but don't forget to get your powdered milk. So when I buy freeze-dried foods for long-term storage, I focus on meat, on dairy products. So that's going to be milk, cheese, all those kinds of things, and eggs. Those are the 3 things that I know I'm not going to be able to get through most of my other canned goods. You can get a lot of canned goods. You can get Yoder's, for example, has bacon. What's the name of the company that has the ground beef and the turkey and the chicken in cans? We don't get it here. I have to order it off of Amazon, so I forget the name of them. But they do have cans of ground beef, and so you can get it that way as well. You can get chili in the can, hash browns or corned beef hash, things like that. So you want to get yourself a good collection of meats. So I spend most of my freeze-dried stuff is going to be dairy, meat, and eggs. Let me see what else we got here. Yes, you can. So just go up US Constitution, and it'll give you everything to include the Bill of Rights and the other 17 amendments behind the Bill of Rights. I wholeheartedly agree. Now we did. So it used to be that you had drinking rights at 18 on any federal establishment, and you could buy cigarettes on any federal establishment at 18. And then we had Obama, and Obama changed that, and he raised the drinking age to 21, and he also raised the age for cigarette purchases to 21. He also said that it's not fair that the military gets special privileges as far as reduced pricing in the commissary and the PX. And so he put out an executive order that the commissary and the PX have to be competitive with the local surrounding communities. So the highly underpaid military now has to, basically pay the prices that the other people pay, rather than having something that would make their pay go a little bit longer, a little bit further. So I really did not like him about that. Oh, wow, that sounds great. Thank you, My Prepper Journey. Keystone is the name of the company. It has the ground beef, turkey, chicken. So I started a monthly thing with Amazon. I get 1 can of Keystone beef, ground beef, and 1 can of Keystone turkey every month. Okay, so I think that's pretty much where we are. I found a new scripture today, and I'm going to share it with you, if you all don't mind. 2 Samuel 22. And it just really impressed me. So we'll do that, and then we'll do Numbers. So let me find 2 Samuel here. 2 Samuel 22. This is really neat, and especially for a soldier. So, I just really fell in love with it. 2 Samuel 22, verse 30. They're talking about God, who trained my hands for war, my arms the strength to bend even a bow of bronze. So, I just thought that was phenomenal. And so anyhow, Numbers. Number 6, verses 23, 24, 25. May the Lord rest you and keep you. May the Lord sanctify you. May the Lord look upon you kindly and grant you peace. So do me a favor. Remember that we're all in this together. I mean, what a family we have here online. Thank you so much for the respectfulness that you have for each other. I greatly appreciate that. Thank you for taking care of each other. Thank you for fixing me when I make mistakes. That is also greatly appreciated. So remember, we're all in this together so we can come out the other side together. Please be kind, polite, and respectful to each other, because togetherness is the key. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock for the nonfiction book club. Okay. So, and please stay safe. I'm going to go check out what this is going on in the Ukraine. Bye-bye.